non-discernible within conditioned consciousness. The absolute is that which is not subject to space and time. Therefore, we who are in space and time can never discern it. But at best, we can see the traces of it or radiations from it, such as life. Life is a main effulgence of the absolute. We call him then the life giver or the creator, all of these other attributes. But they are emanations from the absolute. They don't touch the absolute. The absolute, it remains absolute. It implies least artificial interferences in it, within it, or as it is connected with anything. It implies a high level of reality, which also implies a high level of honesty, genuineness, truthfulness, not concern about outcome or reputation. If you say somebody is acting authentically, that means they are really expressing what is within them, rather than to please the listeners or make an impact or to entertain or whatever. Authentic means that, just genuine. Because if you come back again in a different day where there is less rain or more sun or more, it's the same. Authenticity implies reliability, honesty, genuineness. To have touched the original source of consciousness or life. There are about 20, 30, 50 terms, more or less, have been used by people who are seeking or Sufis or whatever. So awakening is one of them. Wake up implies you, I, he and she are in the conditioned consciousness zone, which is akin to being asleep. It's another form of sleep. We are given lots of wonderful metaphors in life about reality itself, one of which is sleep and within sleep and within sleep and so on. You may be hallucinating, you may be in a very frightening state in sleep. You may be in a nightmare. Until you wake up, you're relieved. Well, thank God it was a nightmare. So this life, this experience of human consciousness is like that. It is ever-changing, ever unreliable, and that is never constant. And you know it when you wake up to the semi-constant life of awakening that also is inconstant. All kinds of funny things can happen, including your own mind can go crazy. You can be schizophrenic, mad, let alone. So it's all mediation and mediation and mediation. The process of waking up or enlightenment or all of these other terms imply rise in consciousness or moving along the ladder of higher consciousness through intelligence. Is the medium of intelligence. That's why we love intelligence, because it is the material from which the ladder of climbing consciousness is made of. An intelligence will lead you to the realization that you and I were the most stupid people, even though we consider ourselves more intelligent than the others. Within conditioned consciousness, that may have been true, but in reality, until such time you go beyond the evaluation of how intelligent you are, or it is, or you are awakened or not. You leave that zone of conditionality completely where it is. So you are now like a tabula rasa in terms of intelligence. Now you are potentially a good witnesser, because you don't come with all kinds of values, baggage, judgment. It's a big attribute. The biggest attribute the Quran gives to the Prophet is being a witnesser. Meaning, you're clear, you don't have presumption, assumption of your own cultural values or mental values. No. Clear, witness. You're seeing it for what it is. Complete implies there is no process. There is nothing to add or subtract. It implies the perfect instant, the perfect moment from which everything emerges. Time, eternal, short, long, emerges from that moment in time. So it is an attribute of the divine, timeless, eternal, from which emerges this short term, very short life, very short history. But like our life on earth, few billion years, a tiny little earth. Look at the amazing gift of nature. It shows us how insignificant it is. Because, this is taken 14 billion years. Billion years on what? On the earth. How long is that? And what is the earth part of? On and on until you say, my mind is being blown up. That's the purpose. You are acting in an existential way in the multidimensionality of life itself, then of course it's relevant. The ceiling is too low, I can't go in the room. Or it's so high that it may be blown up by the wind any minute, and so on and so on. We are living as human beings a life of relativeness, all in comparison, by virtue of eternal life, boundless, which has touched me as life. Anything that comes into the duality zone is already being conditioned by duality, beginning and end, and up and down, and good and bad, and thousands of complementary and contradictory, if you like, attributes. That's conditioned already. Extent of, as you are about to wake up from a normal sleep, the first instant of being aware a bit of the outer world, whether it's because of a noise or rain, it's the first. And then you become more, and then you're more awake, and then you are fully awake, and then you're jumping out of the bed. So degrees. So the extent of change in consciousness, any change, it comes in degrees. Going to sleep comes in degrees. I'm not yet asleep, please allow me, don't make noise. Degrees. Equally, realizing the falsehood of the so-called you or I comes in degrees. To begin with is my CV, and I can change it in order to suit the matching process with whoever may employ me, and so on and so on. Degrees. It's all in degrees. Lies are in degrees. Truth comes in degrees. The departure of this short-lived conditioned consciousness on earth is a gateway. It's the opening of the gate for the soul or the spirit to leave what it has been energizing or giving life to on this earth. That's the process of dying. From the point of view of an ignorant person, we think that's all what it is. It is sad, fearful, miserable, all of the other dreadful, negative, if you like, attributes. From the point of view of who has gone up in the degrees of waking up to pure consciousness without any descriptions in it, is the most celebratory thing to do. For that reason, all human beings love to celebrate, because all of us will die. And that is worthy of celebration. That is no longer on the one hand and on the other hand, and they've come and they've gone and they've left this behind. And that what a mess, what and the whole thing is collapsed, the house is gone, the wife is, and all of that fear, anxiety, concern about loss. So we would like to celebrate a state that there is no loss. That's why we have to do it with a lot of drug and alcohol and abuse. And it's a lie upon lie upon lie. And the end of it is even worse than the beginning of it. You come to the big party with a bit of anticipation because you want to be relieved from your anxieties and concerns and fears. And the ultimate one is insecurity, because we want hope. And hope is about security. What security are you going to have? What? How do you know you're not going to die now? The air goes in, you're hanging on air, you're hanging on water. So, relief is something we cherish and is worthy to be celebrated. And that can only happen when you have experienced, touched upon higher consciousness, which all of us will experience after death. Mirror, break it. Reflection. Or part of our love for friendship, people like us, he's like me, we have a lot in common. I mean, you may see aspect of yourself in the mirror of the other, because there is no other. We're all the same. All of living human beings have the same soul. It's an amazing thing that the Quran declares. But so many people, even if they declare they are Muslim, whatever, they don't truly live it. It says, we created you from one spirit, one soul. And from it is duplicates. So the soul is the same. The soul of the Prophet and the soul of the most criminal man is the same. You don't realize it. It's the cover on the soul. It can be the worst of the criminals. But the light is the same, the torch is the same. But one of them ends up showing the most dreadful criminal in every way. And the other one shows perfect reflection of the light. That's reference. Because if we are in duality, we need to have constant recalibration, put things appropriately where they belong, contextualize it. You find most people don't do that. They don't have that appropriate context. They carry on blundering, because to have a context, you have to stop your present moment context, because you are working, moving, speaking. So there is a context in that. If you want to really recalibrate that, you have to stop. Stop the sound, stop the mind, stop the process. Now recalibrate. Are they people who are listening to you? Do they want it? Do they not? Is it useful to them? That's why people keep on jabbering. That's why Krishnamurti walked out. He said, well, I can't connect. That sort of thing. He had intuition. So then they investigate. They go, well, there are some people who will benefit. All right, I'll come. Since you see the connection between the subtle higher spirit and the ever-changing world of matter and other related matter, there are essentially four substances. They're fire, earth, water, and gas. So these are the substances that we physically are made of. So I have to make sense out of the pain I'm in. So if I accept that there is only grace and mercy, then I realize pain as one of it. I've been given pain in order for me not to increase it, not to carry on the bad habits that have caused my pain. So we need that sense, and better sense, higher sense, different degrees of sense, meaning trying to discern the origin of this event. I have a sense that they don't like me. Why? Because they threw so much stones at me. Here I am sitting in the middle of half a ton of stones. It means I have a sense they don't. The fellow he had a relative living very well in a village. He'd done very well with agriculture. This fellow said, I had enough of the wife and the children and the family. He took his suitcase and went. So the relative welcomed him. So he said, the doctors advised me to come to the country. It's good for my health. Welcome, welcome. They gave me the best room in the house. After 2 months, they demoted him to the next room. After 6 months, they have enough of it. After about a year, he comes to this friends of his. He sees his suitcase at the door, outside the door, and the door is locked. So the friends with whom he had been meeting in the chaikhana, in the coffee house, because that's where he lived all day, in the coffee. So they see him walking with the suitcase. They say, what's happened? He said, I had a very subtle sense that they don't want me anymore. Very subtle sense. Sense is that I have a feeling. It's not definable or easy to demonstrate, but I have a sense that they don't love me here anymore. It's inseparable with time. It's again part of the duality zone of consciousness. Space and time is where we as human beings are and have to continue functioning until the time comes for the soul or the spirit that leaves the body which is within space and time. So it is, if you like, a short journey for the soul or the spirit to come from the infinite boundlessness, timelessness, to space and time. These are state, these are very much used by people who are trying to see where are they in terms of rise in consciousness, and can often be very abused. Station is place where your consciousness has now stabilizing at, knowing how false everything is, knowing how selfish everyone is, including yourself. So you are at a station of whatever it is, if you like, of seeing things as they are, of reality. States are the earlier one. It changes. The state is more liable to change. State of anger. But you can see this fellow's station is deception. He absolutely deceives everyone, that sort of thing. State is something that's in a way short-lived. Station is a bit more long-lived, but also changeable. If you can say, I am now experiencing, practicing state of sabr. So after a year or 2 or 3, you can say, look here, I very much enjoyed being a guest in the state or the station of sabr. I can stop time. Switch off. Not easy. But that's the station of touching timelessness whilst living within time. Change of a newly conceived creation in the womb is transformed all the time. Every hour, every day, transforms. New things come, new thing, transform until it's born. Then again, there is transformation after that. Every minute, every day, until few years, then it stabilizes. Transformation meaning change that living entity is now behaving differently, experiencing differently, demands to maintain its life differently, and so on and so on. Transformation is that. The big, if you like, example of that is how the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. That's a clear, major transformation. It's amazing how it sheds its whatever it is and suddenly the butterfly takes over. Dying is another transformation. He was alive, he was just being nasty to all of us, but now he suddenly is transformed, gone. Shed the body and the mind. It's a form of communication. There are zillions of different types of transmissions. So many of them we as humans classify also as intuitive, as this, that. And people who are interested in the paranormal have a lot of classification. It's a very special transmission. It's connection. Everything is connected. Everything that's known and unknown is a manifestation of absolute connectedness before the Big Bang. They're connected, inseparable. So there's a memory of that. That's why we love to connect. Oh, I can't live without him or her. It's impossible. We are one. We're inseparable. But if they are, connected and conjoined in the head and so on, the whole medical profession goes into a song and dance in order to separate them. But now they were connected, but we don't want to be connected. Everything emerged from absolute unity, returning back to unity. In the meantime, we cherish unity and we give all kinds of, especially in terms of cities and so on, unify whatever big railway station. You give it the name of, isn't it unity or not?
Union Station?
Union Station, there it is, you see. He's a man of spirit, he knows. Union Station. It's because of this union. It's Union Station. Oh. I like to see what's behind it. Veil is what causes a semi, if you like, separation between two entities. And it is, each of these entities has its reality in a way, or its state, but there is a veil between them. It's like waking up, you're entering into an intermediate state of veils between sleep and wake up. Veil. If you don't see very well, if you have got a lot of cataract on your eye or whatever it is, you say there's a veil, I can't see well, I can't hear well. There's a lot of noise in between, I can't hear that voice. There's a veil. Veil is that which comes in between the transmission and the reception. However that is. Maybe low, it may be basic, it may be high. The veil. That's why we say the ultimate divine is veiled. The absolute truth is veiled.